All right, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about capital budgeting today, okay? Capital budgets. And uh, when we talk about capital budget, we are addressing the problem of the deployment of long term investment, okay? So you invest in a building that's going to last 10 years. You invest in a machinery that is going to last 6 years, or you invest in a piece of equipment that's going to last 20 years. This is the kind of thing we'll call capital budgeting problem. And the question is, if you make an investment that's going to last 20 years, now, essentially, you expect the asset that you invest in. Could be a building, it could be a taxi cab, it could be a piece of machinery. You expect the cash inflow from the initial investment to yield a return, a rate of profit. The problem in capital budget analysis is to ask yourself whether the cash inflow over time will justify the investment. And
I'm
now,
sorry, Professor. Are you sharing
I'm not
supposed to be sharing your screen?
not yet. I'm not doing
Oh,
that yet.
okay.
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 I'm explaining to you what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So the question you ask yourself is whether the cash inflow is going to justify the cash outflow. Now remember that you make the cash outflow today, the present time, and then the cash inflows will come over several periods of time, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. And so in capital budgeting, we say to ourselves that money that you have in hand today is worth more than money that you have in the future. So we are going to apply the present value techniques that we learned. So I'm going to pull up my screen and just go through the basic problem first. And then we're going to solve some problems. And I will then illustrate the problem that we have for our homework assignment. How are we going to do it? Okay. And
Okay.
what is it that I expect you to do? I'm going to use a very simple capital budgeting problem to illustrate capital budgeting. But I'm going to go a little further today. Incidentally, and unfortunately, the other instructor just dropped out and we don't know why. I hope everything is fine. So we're going to sort of accelerate what we're doing. So today I'm going to talk about capital budgeting, the basic concept, and then I'm also going to talk about the cash flow, which I will illustrate for you how to do the problem in chapter 12. Okay, so like I was saying, the problem with capital budget is that you're going to apply the principle of time value of money. So money has a time value. Okay, there is also a risk and return trade-off. The source of value in capital budgeting is the cash flow that comes in the future after you make an investment in the present. Okay. Here's an example about Disney investing $17.5 million. Now, how would this affect the capital basis of, or the capital stock of Disney? Okay, so you invest $17 million. Are you going to obtain cash inflows that will justify the $17 million? So, and we know that the cash flow will come over time. Okay. Again, you have the process for capital budgeting, like identify a promising opportunity, you identify a building that somebody's trying to sell, and the building has tenants. And so the question is, will the rent over time cover your investment for today? All right. So you have different kinds of capital budgeting problems. You have capital budgeting problems that enhance investments that you add to what you're already doing. There's also capital budgeting that addresses cost reduction. And what do we mean by cost reduction? Now think about, for example, the cost of maintaining old equipment. Okay? For example, you also think about, say, cost saving. Okay, cost savings. For example, you think about like new technology. That's an example of cost saving equipment. All right, new technology, new method of doing things. Okay, so those are cost saving kinds of investment. Okay, government investment mandates, investment that are the result of government mandates. For example, pollution. Okay, pollution reduction is an example of government mandates. Okay, so we use the present value technique. Okay, and so when we invest today, we invest $15 million today, and we get, say, $3 million a year for the next 6 years. We have to discount the future cash inflow using the present value method. And so the question is the net present value. So if the net present value exceeds the present day cost, then we invest. That is, we justify the investment. So that is the technique we're going to be using, the net present value technique. Okay. So whenever we have NPV, okay, if, for example, the net present value, and I'm going to do an example, is greater than cost, that means we justify investment. So we invest. If not, we don't invest. Okay. If the net present value of the project okay, so that's if NPV is greater than cost, essentially NPV is greater than 0, we invest. Okay. Otherwise, if NPV, if NPV is less than 0, so do not invest. All right. So this is the criteria, net present value. And so what is net present value? Okay. How do we calculate net present value? Net present value is the sum of the discounted cash flows. So let me look at a simple example. So this is the formula for net present value. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to rewrite it. The formula for NPV. Okay. So the formula for NPV, I'm going to make it big. Net present value is equal to the sum of the cash flows. uh, discounted into the present. Okay. This sum of cash flows I don't think I want to play with that. Okay. Let's just not play with that. This is the sum of cash flows and EF T cash flows over 1 plus okay, okay. All right. So, and once you can get that, you subtract cost. So this is your net present value. Okay. If you sum up the cash flows divided by 1 plus k to the power t minus cost, then you have your net present value. All right, so now having done this, let us take a simple problem. Okay, let's take a simple problem, and I'm going to try to make this very easy. In that way, we don't spend too much time on this. Just bear with me. Let me correct this equation. Okay, I'm going to correct that equation. Okay, all right. So that's what we have. Sorry for all the going back and forth. So with sum the cash flows discounted over time, subtract the cost. And so let's look at a simple problem. So what we have, I'm going to put together a simple problem here so we can solve it quickly and move on. And then you can understand the other examples, okay? Now here's a very simple example. Now, hello, who is talking? Okay, so here's a simple example. I'm going to try to simplify this. All right. So here's a problem where a business is investing, say, $45 million initially. So you have a negative number here. And the project will yield 4,000, $4 million the first year, 8.7, 9.23, 17.68, and so forth and so on every year for the next 8 years. So the question now becomes, would you invest in this if the cost of capital is 9%? Okay, would you invest in this business? So in order to do a capital budget, you need to know the time horizon. Okay, this is to do a capital budget problem. You need to know the time horizon. The time horizon here is 8 years. Okay, that's your time horizon. And then you also need to know the cost of capital. So we're going to say the cost of capital, we're going to call it cost of capital K equal to 9%. Okay, that's 0.09. All right, so that is our cost of capital. All right, so are you going to invest in this business? So let's see if we're going to be able to justify this investment. And the way to go about it is to use the formula we have here. So let us see if we can state the formula in such a way that it's easy for us to understand. I'm going to once more take up a little bit of your time. Okay, so the NPV will be equal to, and I'm going to insert an equation. Okay. So here is CF1. Okay. CF for the first year, 1 divided by okay, 1 plus k to the power 1 plus two, 1 plus k to the power 2. We can just carry on until we get to F8. So we're going to do all the years, okay? So we take cash flow for the first year. And so what are the cash flows? I'm going to write down those cash flows in a very simple way so that you can see we have 45.05, which is the initial investment. And so again, we come here and we subtract 45.05, which is the cost of the investment. So we're going to now calculate the cash flows. And we say that K is 0.09%, okay, or 9%. Okay, that is our cost of capital, because you have to ask yourself, what is the cost of capital, okay, which is, for example, the cost of borrowing money, or it could also be the required return by investors. So it could be anything. We're going to look at, next week, we're going to look at how to calculate the cost of capital, and then how to use that cost of capital to make investment decisions. Okay, so I'm going to now simplify this. The cash flows, as you know, let's see, 4.44, 8.79. Okay, the cash flows were 4.44, 8.79. Okay. We have 9.23, 17.68. Okay. 9.23, 17.68. Okay. We got the cash flows. Okay. And we have 19.39, 27.07. Okay. 19.39, 27.07.
14.42.
Oh, thank you very much. 14.42.
And 10.6.
And 10.6. Thank you very much for helping. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in these cash flows into that formula. That's the simple thing. It's not a heroic thing to do. And you can do it on a spreadsheet. So I'm going to do this on a spreadsheet. All right. I'm going to do it on a spreadsheet, and you can see it, or we can do it here. So let's see, maybe we can do it here. I'm just going to take the first one, and then I will do it on a spreadsheet. I'm going to illustrate it here, and then I do it on a spreadsheet, which is very easy, which is, okay, so the first cash flow is 4.44 divided by 1.09. Okay. And then the next one is 8.79 over 0.09 to the power 2. All right. So you can see where we're going with it. And then the next one will be 9.23 divided by 1.09 to the power 3. Okay. And the next one will be 17.68 over 1.09 to the power 4. Okay. And 19.3909 to the power 5. And 27.07 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. And we have 14.42 0.09 to the power 7. Okay. And 10.6 0.09 to the power 8. Then minus 45.05. All right. So this is essentially the setup. Okay. Now I'm going to take these same numbers and put them on a spreadsheet. You cannot calculate this, but we can put them on a spreadsheet and get a simple solution, or go through a simpler process. That is to say, this is a solved example. This is essentially from a homework assignment. Now, the difference between this and a homework assignment is that you're going to do this for different cost of capital. And maybe we're going to go through that process also. So I'm going to say this And then I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet. So I'm going to bring up a different, going to bring up a different share. Okay, I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet. Okay, so are you seeing my spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, so you see my spreadsheet. So I'm going to pull it up. Are you seeing it better now?
Yes.
All right. So now, so K equals 0.09. All right. And so your cash flow, so I'm going to say NPV. This is where I'm going to put my NPV. Okay. And so I'm going to divide this. That will be equals to D6, okay, over 1.09 to the power D5. So, okay, D6 over 1.09 to the power D5. And so let's now go through. What do you see? Okay. So as you can see from this formula here, you can see that here we divide E6, which is the 4.44, by 1.09 to the power E5, which is 1. And here we divide F6, which is 8.79, divided by 1.09 to the power F5, which is 2. And so you can verify this. Let us say, just to verify this, I will say equals F6 over 1.09 to the power 2. F6 over 0.09 to the power 2. Okay, so you see, I get the same result, as when I pulled it through. And so your NPV, so here I'm going to put NPV. Your NPV will be the sum of all these numbers. So that is the sum. That's your net present value, okay, which is the sum of all the discounted values. This is the sum of all discounted values. And so here, what do we have? We have a positive NPV. So this NPV is positive, okay? It's greater than 0. Okay, this is greater than 0. So the NPV is positive, or maybe I should put it here. The NPV is positive, it's greater than 0. And so here we accept the project. If the NPV was negative, which is less than 0, we will not accept the project. All right. So if you want, you can now cut and paste this into so I'm going to All right. So essentially, if you do the arithmetic right, we will have the result, which I'm going to paste here. So your decision, based on results. Okay. It fits. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to reduce the decimals. All right, so we can just put the results here, um, and but you're better off looking at it on a spreadsheet. Okay, this just makes a mess of it. All right, so now we have a simple problem. Okay, so our decision here is to accept. Okay, you accept the project. Okay, has a positive NPV. Okay, except the project because it has a positive NPV, and this is the NPV here. NPV is 28.065. So we'll take the project. Now, for your homework assignment, you would have to do this over and over and then plot a chart. Okay. Now, the other stage in capital budgeting is to calculate cash flows. Okay. So I'm going to take a project and I'm going to try to calculate the cash flow, okay, so that you can see how to calculate a cash flow for a project. Okay. So the next stage is to calculate the cash flow. Now remember that in this project, you were given the cash flow. These are the cash flows, okay? But in practice, nobody just hands over cash flows for you. I mean, somebody's going to calculate the cash flow, and that it could be you. Then you hand over the cash flow to somebody else, or uh, you are the project manager and you calculate your own cash flows. But so you should count on the possibility that you can do it. You're going to be required to do it either way. So let's look at this a simple project and see if we can calculate cash flow. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to put up a screen with cash flow requirement. All right. So here is a problem. All right. I'm going to bring up this problem. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Here is a company called TradeWind. Okay. Now, TradeWind is considering a project. The initial investment is $14.8 million. And the equipment the shipping cost of the equipment to be $200,000. The life of the project is 5 years. Now, the company will use this equipment to produce 75,000 units per year. The 120,000 units the second year, 125,000 the third year, and 80,000 and 65,000. So this is a 5-year project. Okay. Now, the price of the goods, I will give you a price. Okay. The price of the goods will be $320 the first year, $320 the second year, $320 this next year, $275, $250. Okay. So again, this is somewhat of a tedious project. Okay, it's not a project that is going to make things easy for you. All right, but it will sort of give you an idea of what practical projects look like. So you can see that you're going to have to use a spreadsheet. Okay, you're going to have to use a spreadsheet to solve this problem. So let's proceed. I'm going to put up a spreadsheet, and you can see how we're going to proceed with the problem. Okay. We're going to proceed with the problem. So I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet, and then you can see uh, how to solve the problem. So I'm going to stop this share, and I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet. Okay. So as you remember, the fixed costs, we have, the typical revenue and cost information. So the fixed cost of the project every year will be 700,000. So I'm going to okay. The company will incur annual fixed costs of 700,000. Okay. So, and that will go throughout the project. That will incur an annual fixed cost of 700,000. And the variable cost, as you can see from the project, will be 140,000. And somebody's going to ask me, how is this? So 140,000. Okay. So that's what it will be. But you're going to produce a certain number of units per year. Okay. You're going to produce 75,000 per year. So if you produce 75,000 this year, what will be your total cost? No, this is 140, not 140,000. Okay. Okay. So if you produce 140, if you produce 75,000, your total cost will be 140 times 75,000. Okay. The total cost will be 140 times 75,000. So that builds in here. And so that is the unit cost times the number of units that you produce. And so this year you produce 120,000. The next year, 125,000. The next year will be 80,000. And the next year will be 65,000. And so you see it populates that, okay? And the price per unit, as we indicated, will be 320. So if you produce 75,000 and you sell them at $320 each, your total revenue will be 24 million. So 320 times 75,000 will give you 24 million. And again, sell at 320 and 320 and then 275 and 250. All right. So as you can see, you have your revenue minus your cost minus your fixed cost. This is your total cost, your total variable cost minus your fixed cost. And so now you have your depreciation. You have to depreciate the equipment. Okay. Your cost of your equipment is 14,800,000. Okay. Installation is 200,000. Your initial working capital. Okay. I didn't include initial working capital, so we have no initial working capital. Okay. So this is your present day investment. Okay. Your depreciation on a straight line over 5 years, your depreciation will be equal to E8 plus E9 divided by 5. That is straight line depreciation. And so, okay. So we have $E8, $E9. And so, all right. So the depreciation is constant each year at 336,000. And so then you subtract your costs from your revenues. And so that is your profit. You drag that down. So that's your profit. And so net income before tax, your tax rate, let us say a tax rate of 35%. So let's say 35% tax rate. So that will be minus 0.35 times your profit, which here is 15. Okay, so that's your tax. So you subtract that. Okay, so your net income after tax, you subtract your income from your tax. And so that will be F15 minus F16. Sorry. All right. So we have a profit here, a profit line that you have. Now, remember that when you are calculating cash flow, you have to add back depreciation because depreciation is not a cash outlay. Okay, depreciation is not a cash outlay, so you have to add it back. So we add back depreciation, which is depreciation is 14 plus minus F14 And so you add back the depreciation. When you add back the depreciation, so then your net cash flow is your income after tax plus your depreciation, which is F17 plus F18. So that is your net cash flow. Okay. We did not have any initial inventory liquidation, so we will keep that out. If you had an inventory liquidation, if you had an initial inventory investment, so you would do that. So now we have a cost of capital. We are assuming a cost of capital of 15%. So we're going to the present values will be, so this is the total net cash flow. And okay, this is supposed to be 14,800,000. Okay, so the depreciation here is 3 million. And so this is your net cash flow, all right? So you have this net cash flow, and then you begin to calculate present values. Now remember that present value is going to be calculated exactly the same way, which is equal to the cash flows here, okay, which is E19 over 1.15 to the power, which is here on line 2. Okay. All right. So this is your PV. And so your net present value is the sum of all the present values, including the cost, which is discounted at 0, and then all the present values down the line. So your net present value here is 21 million. So this is a good project. So we accept the project because the present value is a positive number. All right. So I'm going to post this for you so that you can use this as a template. Now remember that your own problem might have other complications. So I hope you are kind of like following what is being done. If you didn't follow, ask me now so that I can explain things to you. Okay. Because your own project could have other complications. Okay. The depreciation may not be straight line. The depreciation could be MACRS. So if you have issues with that, send me an email and then I will illustrate MACRS for you. I mean, I will do another Zoom session just to explain that. But I would hope that your professor initially explained to you the differences in depreciation method. So I'm going to save that and I will upload it for you so that you can use it as a template. If you have complications, then you create a whole new template that makes things easy for you. All right. So does anybody have any questions? Hello?
No, Professor.
Okay. If you don't have any questions, then I'm done. And you can please send me an email if you have other questions, especially when you're doing your homework. And I'm going to allow the class to catch up on all the homework until May 21. So I'm going to open everything until May 21. Your final exam will be on May 24 and 25, in the sense that I'm going to set up the final exam to begin on May 24, and you have until May 25 to complete the final exam. You also have until May 21 to complete all assignments, okay, including the quizzes in MyLab. We already discussed, which quizzes you should do, and then you have assignments. The assignments you already did in MyLab up to chapter what? Chapter 9 or something like that. It's in the announcement, the original announcement. Okay, and all other assignments will come from me. Okay, and if you do any extra assignments based on previous instructions, you get it as a bonus. If you have other questions, ask them now. If you don't, I hope you have a good night.
Okay, Professor. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.